Every now and again, you'll probably come across headlines such as this, or even this, which highlights the problems that the younger generation has, especially the millennials, when it comes to buying and owning their first home. And why is that? The house prices in the UK has increased significantly over the past decades. If you look at the real house prices adjusted for inflation, you see that the houses are more and more difficult for our generation to afford comparing to decades ago. Now, in England alone, the house prices has risen by 173% in the past 2 decades. However, if you look at the salary increase for the millennials, it has increased by a whopping, wait for it, 19%. And that's the biggest problem that the millennials are facing at the moment, which is that our salary increase is nowhere near catching up the rise in house prices. To be fair, for some of us, the salary increase is not even near catching up with the rate of inflation, especially at the time of high inflation that we are having at the moment. Back in 1998, around 55% of people aging between 24 to 35 were able to step onto the property ladder. However, if you look at the current climate, only 30 or 35% of the millennials are able to afford to buy their home. Now, you may think, okay, 30%, 35%, that's actually not too bad. However, if we look at the global scale, 70% of Chinese millennials are homeowners. And if we compare the UK with the US counterpart, the UK millennials are still ranking a bit behind when it comes to home ownership. Let's now look at another factor which I mentioned that play an important role in causing the millennials to not be able to afford their home, and that is salaried income. And let's look at it in a very practical sense. The current average house price in the UK is £265,000. The current average salary for 20 to 39 years old is £30,000. Now you see, this £35,000 in fact is quite optimistic, because the peak of our career where we will be earning the most money is probably when we are in our late 30s or early 40s. However, if you're in your late 20s or early 30s, your salary is going to be a bit lower, so the 30,000 is quite optimistic. 30,000 income annually means your take-home pay is going to be right around £2,000 a month. Now, this £2,000 a month is before any pension contribution deduction, which I do recommend everyone to put some money in the pension pot for your future. So after 3% pension contribution, you're left with £1,945 roughly. Say rent is £500 and all the bills are £100, food £200, transportation £150, and as this budget is looking really grim at the moment, let's add another £50 to spend on perhaps something fun and entertaining, which we're now left with £945 to save for our very first home. However, this means that we don't really get to do much at all. There's limited dining out, limited drinking out, there's no holiday, and you may think, wow, this is okay. It's only short term because we're saving for our very first home, so it is temporarily. It shouldn't be long until you can afford the first home, right? Or is it? You see, banks typically only lend up to 4.5 times the total annual income of your annual salary, which means that if you're someone on average UK salary and wanting to buy an average UK home, you'll only be able to borrow up to £135,000 and will need to save the rest of the house value as a deposit. And with the interest rate at the lowest time ever of around 0.1%, it will take you roughly 12 years to be able to save for that deposit. I know the maths is a little off here because obviously you can opt for a cheaper home, but I just want to highlight a significant mismatch here between the house prices and the salary increase. So with all that being said, the very important question is there anything that we can do at all? Well, a fair few things. Obviously, being mindful of your spending is very crucial here, but I'm not going into detail in this video. So first, what you can do is you can increase your income. It might not be as difficult as you think. There are actually a few ways that you can go about it. You could be asking your current workplace for a pay rise. At the moment, the inflation rate stands around 3% and projected to be around 4 to 5%. So any pay rise that is more than 4 or 5% will be very beneficial for you. Or another thing you can do is to change jobs or change industry so that you get a bump in salary. In certain jobs or in certain industry, there will be bonuses and commissions. And if you do have a skill set that could potentially apply for those jobs, you may also need to think about career change that could help you increasing your salary. Another thing you can do is to get a side job or side hustle, and this is the approach that I am taking at the moment. I do have a full-time job, but I also do a consultancy work on the side during the weekends so that I can earn a bit more income to save for whatever I want to save for. It can be a bit tiring having a full-time job but doing other side jobs on the side on the weekends. However, if your goal is to save for your first home as soon as possible, then this may be the approach that you want to think about. I do have many videos regarding earning more income, side job, side hustle planned for. So if this is something that you are interested in, then do subscribe so you don't miss those uploads. The second thing you can do is called Geo Arbitrage. It's basically moving to another place or another city or another country with a lower cost of living while still maintaining your current level of income. Essentially, this is what the Londoners have been doing since year 2020 and early 2021, where they move out of London to other cities in the UK which have lower cost of living, which can then provide them better quality of life while maintaining their city income. Lovely, isn't it? But you don't really have to be from London to be benefiting from this, since working from home and remote working is a thing, and it is going to be a thing for the future. Regardless of where you're living in the UK, what you can do is apply for jobs in cities with higher pay and living in city with lower cost of living. Now, if you're someone who doesn't really have a strong tie in the UK, you might also want to consider moving to a cheaper country as well. I do know a lot of people who move out of the UK temporarily for a few years to Spain, to Greece, just to accelerate their saving rates, and then they can come back after a few years to buy a home in the UK. So if you're someone that do not have a strong ties, family ties in the UK, this may be the approach that you want to consider. The next one is going to sound a bit crazy to many, and in a way it is quite risky, so it all depends on how much risk you're willing to take. But if you're someone that really want to significantly reduce the number of years that it takes for you to save for your first home, then you may want to consider, instead of putting your money in a saving account, you can put your money in investment ISA and then invest in a passive index funds. With the average return of around 7% to 9% per year, you could actually reduce time saving for the deposit from 12 years to 8 years. Again, this bears a certain level of risks because the market goes up and down all the time. So before considering this method, you really need to ask yourself, what would you do, or are you willing to wait a bit more if the market actually tanks just before you reach your saving goals? It is also recommended that in order to see a gain or significant gain in a passive fund, you should let your money sit in or invested in the fund for at least 5 years before you see any proper gain. So do bear that in mind as well. I truly hope you found this video helpful and thought-provoking. It would really mean the world to me if you would hit that like button to help out this channel. And if you enjoy content like this, why not subscribe for more? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.